All right, what about now? How's it sound? Oh, it is amazing. Technology can be so great and also so infuriating. Nothing changes. I absolutely change nothing. Nothing. I shut down the same way. I restart the same way. And for some reason, without making any changes, things just go sideways. All right. So now that we got the sound back on track, let's get this thing started again. And so, as I was saying, the verdict is in, and exactly what everyone expected to happen is happening. Activists are furious. Politicians are choosing sides, the wrong ones most often. And the racial narratives are being loaded into the chamber and fired. Meanwhile, this Senate candidate up in Maine, his candidacy and his scandal is exploding. We have homeless drug addicts on Skid Row being paid to vote. And in Ireland, across the Atlantic, a man is nearly beheaded on a street in Belfast, while political leaders are worried about the backlash. It's absolutely ridiculous. So we're going to get into all of that and more right after this.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
What's going on, y'all? Welcome to the Mission Ready Men Briefing right here on the SHR Media Network, where faith in God sets the standard and masculinity is not toxic. Today is Thursday, June 11th, in the year of our Lord 2026. And we have a ton of stuff to get into. I have so many clips to show you. I honestly don't know if we're going to get through everything because sometimes I have no idea how I'm going to choose what I'm going to talk about and where things go once I actually decide what I'm going to do, because things change so often. The news cycle is so fluid. And so we're going to get into it, but please do me a favor, hit like, subscribe, share, comment, do all the algorithm things that we need you to do. We would really appreciate it. We are growing, and we're so thankful for that. And this show also runs on the Mission Ready Men Briefing individual channel. Same briefing, same show, same content, just a different way to access it. So if you're not over there yet, do me a favor and subscribe over there as well. And like I said last time, we've been having some problems on Facebook. I'm not sure. I know last week it was on the SHR Facebook channel. I don't know if it is this week. We're still troubleshooting, trying to figure out how to get that taken care of. But in the meantime, you have many other avenues: YouTube, X, and Rumble. So be sure to check us out on those platforms as well. All right, y'all, let's get after it because we got a lot to get after. So we've talked about this before, and the reaction has just been, although expected, just even more ridiculous than many of us expected. And so a teenager stabs another teenager in the heart, gets convicted, sent away for 35 years, too light a sentence, if you ask me. But because of that, because he was found guilty in a court of law by a jury of his peers, that is now racist. That is now systemic racism. There was a lawyer that said he was lynched. It is so exhausting, and I am so over it. Because apparently in 2026, self-defense can mean bringing a knife to a place you're not supposed to bring a knife, being in possession of that knife on grounds where you're not supposed to have it, and using that knife on an unarmed kid who tells you to leave an area that you're not supposed to be in. It boggles the mind. It really does. And so as a result of that framing by these race hustling grifters and people who are listening to these race hustling grifters and not actually paying attention to what's happening, Karmelo Anthony and his family are now the real victims in all of this. And his supporters are out there yelling bias and racist and white supremacy from the back of a luxury sedan. It's just we're gonna dive into this because this is just an absolute circus, and the clowns are out in force. So, as we all know, Karmelo Anthony was asked to leave a place he wasn't supposed to be, and instead of acknowledging that he wasn't supposed to be there and walking away, or even just politely asking, hey, look, it's raining. Do you mind if I stick around under this tent because I'm a Mary Pansy and don't want to get wet until it lets up? I mean, that's what a normal person would do. And I suspect that if he had approached it that way and not gotten all aggressive and said, touch me and see what happens, I suspect that they probably would have said, okay, fine. And he wouldn't be in jail and Austin Metcalf wouldn't be dead. Just a guess. But he was found guilty, sentenced to 35 years, eligible for parole in 17 and a half. That is a lot. And what do you think the chances are that that'll get cut, reduced even further for good behavior? $17 and a half years, 35 years, either one apparently is just too much for murder for the professional race hustling grievance crowd. It's insane. I don't get it. And just to illustrate the point, there's a clip of a commentator, and I'm not really a big fan of this guy. He's had a checkered past with some not great things, but he's out there covering the story, and this is illustrative, I think, of how a situation like this should go down. So let's check this out.
Free Karmelo. You guys support Karmelo? Yes? Yes? We're just here with press just to record and talk to you guys and see what's going on. Okay. Okay. It's a free country. You're in public. You're in public. Okay. Okay. Well, you're in public. I'm just asking. Yeah.
Bitch, go!
Whoa.
Hey, move the camera, bro. They don't want to.
It's free speech. It's free speech. Why are you throwing stuff at us? Yeah, why are you throwing stuff at us? What the hell is that? All right, well, they're throwing water bottles at us while we're recording. By the way, there's signs right here that says, self-defense is not a crime. Karmelo Anthony should do no time. And there's also this.
All right, we don't have to go through the whole thing, but they told him to leave, and he left. He didn't pull a knife. He didn't pull a gun. He just left. No harm, no foul. But for whatever reason, these people don't, they can't, they don't grasp that concept. Absolutely insane. And Karmelo Anthony's, it was reported this person was his mother, but it turns out this was his grandmother. So apparently, the apple doesn't fall too far from the tree. And let's just go ahead and get into it. I got a ton of these, and I'm probably not going to play them all, but you'll get the idea where we're going with this. Hang on, just check this out.
A white person to hit a black boy and get away.
That's
They
it.
send that message that they can do whatever the fuck they want.
They send a message. Yeah.
We love y'all.
It ain't the end of the road.
We love y'all.
Racist, biased, white supremacy. But the white kid is dead. And your grandson is likely going to get out of jail for killing him before he's 40. Still young enough to kill again. And if he chooses not to go that route, still young enough to have a life. Yeah, I know it's going to be harder because he's going to be a convicted felon. Yeah, whatever. He's going to be alive. Whereas Austin Metcalf is not. And his family has to live with that. Karmelo Anthony's family, they can go visit him. They know they're going to see him on the outside in 15 years or so. It's exhausting. It really is. I don't. Is it just me, or is it exhausting to you as well? Because I'm tired of it. I really am. And speaking of people I'm tired of, there is no shortage. There is absolutely no shortage of morons spouting off about this case. People who are allegedly educated. Allegedly. One of whom is our good friend, old Jazzy Ratchet. And I got a few clips of her because she was just on a roll on this one podcast. Again, I at some point you just have to throw up your hands and say, I don't know. I'm rarely at a loss for words. This is insane to me. Absolutely insane.
If a 300-pound man is beating me, like on top of me and beating me down, I'm not limited to fist. You know, I would argue that even the only time we go into things like people's hands being considered deadly weapons is typically like if they're a professional boxer or that kind of stuff. But I think by the time you start getting to like football player, good argument. Good freaking argument. We're not talking about like the golfers. We're talking about football players, right? Like this is what they are trained to do, is to inflict like serious physical contact. And
she is so stupid. Austin Metcalf was not 300 pounds. Austin Metcalf was not beating on Karmelo Anthony. He wasn't beating on anyone. He allegedly pushed Anthony, and there was somebody sitting next to him who testified to the fact that, yeah, he did, but he didn't push him. I was sitting right next to him, and he didn't push him hard enough for him to touch me. So the facts of the case, and I have seen this from so many people online, spouting off, talking about all kinds of stuff that was not presented as evidence in a trial at all, just made up stuff. And it's like, did you pay attention to the trial at all? Or are you just listening to these grifters who are feeding you lies? Like this one. But that wasn't even the worst of it. Because there was another one, another clip that she had. And I posted it. I actually posted it on social media myself. This is one of the most psychotic, unhinged, ridiculous things that I've heard from a politician. And there is a serious top 10 list of ridiculous things that politicians have said. But this, if you follow me on social media, you know what this is, you know what's coming. But let's go ahead and get into this.
Black women, especially Black women who have Black male children, live in fear and agony every single day. A fear and agony that I promise you, the Metcalfs probably never spent a day living that way.
I have a hard time understanding how she let that nonsense, that BS spill out of her face. Black women live in fear every day. What about all the people in Black neighborhoods who live in fear every day? I think those people live in more fear than your average Black woman. And then she went on. She went on to say that the Metcalfs don't experience anything like that is their son is dead. Their brother is dead. Absolutely psychotic. Just unbelievably ridiculous. And when she says stuff like that, it's hard to understand how she ever got elected. And it's not hard to understand why she's not going to be in the next Congress. Soon to be ex-Congresswoman Jazzy Ratchet. And then you had Cardi B with her ridiculous tweet. And I'm not going to play another one of her clips. She said something about the size of the knife and how it wasn't really a deadly weapon. It's like, okay, Karmelo Anthony used the knife, stabbed him, and he's dead. That by definition makes it a deadly weapon, stupid. Wow. Just, I already had a low opinion of her, but seriously? And she's supposed to be a lawyer. Wow. Just wow. What else do you say to that? These people and just when you thought, well, I'm not going to say this is, well, I'll play this and let you decide whether or not this is even more ridiculous. I don't know if it's more ridiculous, but it's definitely in the discussion. And I'm talking about Ashley Allison on CNN. She's a CNN contributor. We've seen her clips before. Scott Jennings is routinely making her look like an idiot. And here, she doesn't need Scott Jennings to sound like an idiot. She does that well enough all on her own.
Also, just how Black Americans feel about policing. It's not like O.J. Simpson was the leader of the civil rights movement of his era. You know, he wasn't a social justice leader, but he represented something for the Black community in that moment, in that trial, particularly because there were 2 white people who had been killed, and the history around how Black people have been persecuted during slavery. There were just so many layers. Also, just how
there weren't so many layers. He was rich. He paid a dream team of lawyers to get him off of a murder charge that everyone knew he committed. And there are jurors on record who have said, yeah, we thought he was guilty, but we chose to acquit him because he's Black, or we chose to acquit him because we were afraid of what might happen. And it doesn't seem like a whole lot's changed since then. And if it has, it's gotten worse. Unbelievable. And so I got one more clip I want to show you, and then we'll close out this segment and move on. But Nick Sorter, he was in that same area where we saw Elijah Schaffer, and when he left, when he was asked. So let's go ahead and check this one out, because this one's even worse.
Yeah.
This guy right here, I don't know if you've seen the clip. He's dancing in front of this white guy's face, telling him he's not going to do nothing. Well, it turns out he was carrying a weapon illegally, and he just got arrested. Moron.
Both should have been dead. The brothers, both brothers. Both of them should have been dead. You ask me?
She said both of them should have been dead. Advocating for murder. Because he was white. There's the one common thread that we're seeing through all of this is that these black people are the biggest racists you could possibly imagine. They want an innocent kid to be dead because reasons. There's no explanation. Like I said, exhausting. All right. So it turns out I have a bunch more clips, but I really don't. Like I said, exhausting. But Karmelo Anthony is now, he's in prison and he is in isolation for his own safety. Because I guess a murderer mingling in Gen Pop with other murderers is what? I don't know. He had all that bravery and bravado in the tent when he was stabbing an unarmed kid, but now he wanted to act like what he thought was a man, and now he's afraid to be in Gen Pop with other men, I guess. There's no reporting as to why he's in isolation. I don't know. I don't really care, honestly. He will be in Gen Pop soon enough, and we'll find out just how brave he is. And if he's really as small and as slight as they tried to portray him in the trial and everything, in 17 years, he may not be Carmela, he may be Carla. Oh man. These people turn they talk about systemic racism and see it in everything, everywhere. And they turn every tragedy into this racial shield, I guess. And when you convict, when a black killer gets convicted, suddenly it's a hate crime against the convicted killer. Meanwhile, he's grown up around people like this who see every white person as their enemy. And there's no problem with that whatsoever, apparently. Austin Metcalf deserved better. His killer, as far as I'm concerned, got off lightly. And everything else is just political noise, political theater. And it says so much about our culture that this is, and I know it's isolated to the Dallas, Frisco area, but it's really not. This one case is, And this particular reaction is it hasn't spread nationwide like I thought it might. But it says it tells you a lot. And the thing is, truth is colorblind. Truth is not racist. And consequences are not bias. Consequences are not white supremacy. And if you're looking for mercy just based on the color of a criminal's skin, that's not mercy, that's not justice, that's chaos. And who wants to live in a chaotic world? I don't. But anyway, folks, let's go ahead and get a word in from our sponsor. And our sponsor for today's show is the SHR Media Shop. The 4th of July is coming up, the 250th anniversary of this great nation. The birth of this great nation is coming up. And so if you want to support what we're doing here at SHR and you want to show your love and your patriotism for this country, head over to the SHR Media Shop and you can grab the shirts from all your favorite hosts. I hope it's me. No, I'm just kidding. All the guys have really great content, really great shows. But grab your shirts over there. Get the SHR mug. Grab our limited edition 250 Reasons to Read Source Documents tee in honor of the 250th anniversary of the birth of this great country. And support the network, support independent media, and grab your shirt today. Grab your gear today at the SHR shop. And you can get there by going to shrmedia.com, and the banner is right there at the top that will bring you right to the SHR shop. So check it out. Visit SHR Media today. Okay. I have had just about enough of that. I could do a whole show on it. And I think BZ tonight might be doing a whole show on it. I will be sure to check that out. But I'm gonna go ahead and move on, because we got to talk about something else that's going on right now. Democrats, whether black or white, or whatever race or ethnicity, are absolutely ridiculous. I know that's breaking news, right? They nominated a deeply flawed candidate. And that's not to say that Republicans have not nominated deeply flawed candidates. Our current president was a deeply flawed candidate. He is a deeply flawed president. There's no getting around that. There's no sugarcoating that. It's the truth. But there is a very, very big difference. The guy that they nominated is he's a degenerate. Let's just call it what it is. He's a degenerate. He sent texts to women who were not his wife when he was newly married. He had a Nazi tattoo on his chest that he bragged about and then covered up. And he then covered it up with a Fenris tattoo, which, if you look on a couple of databases that I looked at, that also has ties to white supremacy. So there's that. He's got a trail of personal scandals. And the fact that they're supporting him with such dogged determination tells us how loyalty to the party trumps character. They've proven that. They have proven that beyond any shadow of any doubt. And this guy won his primary with 72% of the vote. 70, that's overwhelming. That is decisive. And they're sending him up against Susan Collins because she has an R in front of her name. When she has voted with President Trump more often than not, that's true. But she is no conservative by any stretch of the imagination. I believe she voted to impeach President Trump, if I'm not mistaken. But this guy, Graham Platner, alleged oyster fisherman or farmer or whatever they call it, even though I think he made $5,000 as an oyster farmer, and almost all of it came from his mom. So I don't even know what to say to that. But Maine went for Harris in 2024. And so in their attempt to try and flip the Senate and flip that seat, they are voting for whoever. Vote blue no matter who is the apparent philosophy. And some pundits have actually said it. Kyle Clancy actually said that. Crystal Ball's cuckold husband said, vote blue no matter who. And I'm sure others have said it. But this guy, with his old Reddit posts and his Nazi tattoo and the allegations of his girlfriends that have reignited, or at least to a certain extent, brought back the Me Too movement, even though there is a CNN analyst who said that it's not quite the same thing. And the verbal gymnastics she went through to try and make that case was crazy. I don't know if I'm going to get to play that audio, but if we have time, we'll see. But despite all of that, 72% of the Democrats in Maine decided that none of that mattered because President Trump is worse, according to them. Let's see, let's go ahead and see if we can play that. I'm going a little bit out of order here. Actually, no, I don't think I actually even. Nah, never mind. I didn't pull it up. But yeah, they're just letting it go. They're holding their nose and voting for this guy. Apparently, his alleged mistreatment of women and cheating is not a big deal. Even though any chance they get, they will bring up the fact that President Trump has had multiple wives and been accused of infidelity and all that stuff. And they hated him for it. Excuse me. They hated him for it. But now this guy, who also has the added bonus of having put his hands on his girlfriends, no big deal. he was on Morning Joe. I don't even know if it's called Morning Joe anymore, but he did a interview with Mika Brzezinski. And she asked him point blank, is there anything else? And check out his non-answer answer.
Okay, so you say there's nothing out there that could be concerning. And this may seem a little bit rich.
There's nothing out there. I just want to make this clear. There's nothing out there that's actually concerning. People will make everything seem very concerning because that's what people do in politics.
Yeah, this stuff that's going to come out, no big deal. It's all fake and made up. But Democrats are now stuck with this guy. They had what some considered an actual threat to Susan Collins and Janet Mills, but for some reason they didn't back her and she had to drop out of the race. The Democrat, I don't understand them. I really don't. Because I take that back. I do understand them. They hate this country. They hate President Trump. It's just baffling to me that they have degenerated this far. There was a moment of clarity, a moment of sanity on The View of all places. And it was shocking, actually, to see that from these cackling hens. And the person who actually made the comment, despite being a leftist, she actually, from my memory, I don't watch the show on a regular basis, but from my memory and prepping for shows and stuff like that, from my memory, she has been the one who makes the most sense most often. And that's not saying a whole lot. That's a low bar, to be sure. But when there are these rare moments of sanity on The View, it's usually from this one. And that's kind of shocking. So let's go ahead and check this out.
Can ask us to take the moral high ground.
There you go.
That is over at this point.
That's right.
That is over.
It's a choice.
I am sorry. Democrats have always fallen in love and Republicans have always fallen in line. It's time for Democrats to stop that nonsense, put emotion.
Oh, that was the wrong clip, obviously, because Sonny Hostin was doing Sonny Hostin things in that clip. Okay, this is the right clip. My apologies, but let's go ahead and get this thing back on track. Like I said, there's been so much that, I mean, I usually have a ton of tabs. I have even more right now. It's insane. But yeah, here we go.
When you've shown me you have so much hate in your heart that you can literally wipe off
full groups of people, and you name it, fill in the blank he has. That Nazi tattoo that he supposedly has covered up and said he didn't know what it meant, but many ex-girlfriends said he used to proudly call it what it is, a totenkopf, which is a Nazi symbol. Yeah. He has shown us who he is. There is no way in my life I could sleep at night turning my face to all of that. And I don't know who can. I wish some of the Democrats would stand up. This was the party of Me Too. Women have made accusations. They have not been proven yet. But weren't we supposed to listen and hear them? Literally, we were in a time of anti-Semitism, the numbers of anti-Semitic hate. And this guy proudly wore a tattoo for years. All the things he's shown us. And we're going to say, well, this time, because we might agree with his policy, we can turn our heads. I cannot turn my head. I hope other people would join me in that.
And he also...
Like I said, a rare moment of sanity from the cackling hens at The View. And she's right. There used to be an element of the Democrat Party that would understand when things were going too far and call it out. Apparently that was a long time ago because not enough of them are doing that now. And it just shows you between what we talked about with the Karmelo Anthony trial and now this, where they're celebrating a Nazi after spending decades. It didn't just start with Trump. I've said that before. It didn't start with Trump. It ramped up with him, but they've been calling conservatives Nazis and fascists for decades. And now they are supporting an actual Nazi, fascist, communist. And it's somehow okay because the other guy's worse or something. Scott Jennings actually really took it to these fools. And in the way that Scott Jennings usually does. And yeah, there were rumors that he was going to run for Senate in Kentucky. That obviously didn't happen. And I'm glad because he's just he provides too much content for us to lose him to an actual elected office. But let's listen to what he has to say here.
They keep looking for that one story, that one headline, that one moment in my life that they can define the campaign by. But in trying so hard to understand me, they failed to understand that this is not about me at all.
Why are you chuckling, Scott?
Because when you're as damaged as this guy, I guess I would also say it's not really about me, because if it's about him, they're in real trouble. It's sort of makes me laugh. They're looking for one story. They were looking for one and they found like 20. But let's just start with the tattoo. Democrats have spent 10 years here and everywhere else calling every Republican from Donald Trump on down a Nazi sympathizer, and a fascist. And tonight the Democratic Party sent a message. You know what? Nazi tattoo, perfectly fine with us. That is what they are now saddled with. The campaign is about him. There is not one story. There is a troubling list of behavioral issues on this guy. His entire narrative is a lie. They're not going to be able to take the focus off of Grant Platt.
But on the tattoo, though, the difference between he and Donald Trump is
that he has a tattoo and Trump doesn't?
But I think the problem that he had, and I think it's why there were a lot of women behind him tonight, the problem was...
Good thing they were behind him and not in front of him.
That, well,
Did you catch that at the end? Good thing they were behind him and not in front of him. Yeah, I mean, like I said before, the Democrats are stuck with this guy. And even though there may be some Democrats that that bristle at the idea of nominating Platner. Not enough of them. 72% of them in Maine didn't have a problem with it. So we'll see how this plays out. I think he's going to lose to Susan Collins. I think there are enough. Well, put it like this: if Republicans get out and vote, and if enough independents are turned off by Platner, then there is a really good possibility that Susan Collins will win. Not that I'm a huge fan of Susan Collins, not by a long shot, but better her than an actual Nazi. You know, the left always says Trump is literally Hitler when they don't know what the word literally means. But Graham Platner is an actual Nazi. So Republicans, independents, Christians need to step up. And he's right. It's not about one alleged oyster farmer in Maine. It's about the society that we're allowing to unfold in front of us when these scandals become resume enhancers for these candidates, especially on that side of the aisle. Because they think this side of the aisle is so bad, they have to nominate somebody even worse to counterbalance that or something. It makes no sense. It makes absolutely no sense. So we'll see how this plays out come November. Like I said, I don't think he's going to win. I'm praying he doesn't win. Because they're saying that if he does win, there's a chance that the Senate could flip, and then that would just be a wasted 2 years for Donald Trump going forward after that. All right. This is a pretty heavy show today because we got another story about the left and their just utter disdain and contempt for decency and order. And apparently, in Los Angeles, democracy isn't just for the people who have houses. It's a cash in hand special on Skid Row. $2, $4, $5, maybe a pack of smokes. And we know that they're not above drugs. But any of that in your vote for Karen Bass or Nithya Raman is locked and loaded and ready to go. Since they don't need voter ID, all they need is a signature gatherer with a wad of singles, I guess. Or a couple of clean needles, who knows? But we talked about briefly the story of the homeless registrations at these homeless shelters in LA, where 7,601, Midnight Mission was another one with 1,150 or so, even though that place only has 120 beds. That math ain't mathing. But then we got St. Joseph's Center, which is a drop-in shelter that doesn't have beds, but 185 voters registered at that address. And this shelter, this center also got a $600,000 taxpayer funded grant from Nithya Raman when she ran the homelessness committee. Interesting. Skid Row apparently is a voter registration gold mine. Who knew? And there are numerous videos, and I've been seeing this on social media, people asking, where's the evidence that they're registering homeless people and paying for their votes? Where's the evidence? Well, there are numerous undercover videos of them doing exactly that. And in one of those videos actually led to an arrest of someone by the name of Brenda Brown, who was caught on camera paying homeless people for their signatures using fake names and fake addresses. And if you're not following him, you should check out James O'Keefe and the O'Keefe Media Group. He has a 30-minute video where he outlines all of this stuff, and it's undercover video of them watching this woman, Brenda Brown, pay these people to sign for their ballots. So it's let's check out the news story on it.
We're learning more about the professional signature collector who agreed to plead guilty to paying homeless people to register to vote in Los Angeles. Brenda Lee.
So everyone who's wondering where the evidence is, well, she just pled guilty to it. So there's your evidence.
Brown Armstrong admitted she used to pay people on Skid Row $2 or $3 to sign ballot initiative petitions and gave homeless people her address to use so they could register to vote.
Yes, it does. Now, because you haven't registered, I need to register you so I can get paid too. I'm paying you guys, I need to get paid.
Which is a felony, by the way.
Armstrong got paid for every signature she got, and the DOJ says this case is just the tip of the iceberg.
This case is important because it shows how easy it is under California law to corrupt the state's voter rolls and thereby corrupt the state and federal elections administered by the state.
So now the question is how widespread. Those in power would like to say, well, of course there's some fraud, but it's not widespread. The truth is, and I can tell you, having been up there, they have no idea. They have no idea how spread the fraud is because they do nothing to detect it, prevent it, or to prosecute it.
Is that enough evidence? I know she hasn't been found guilty yet, well aware, but is that enough evidence to at least question what's going on in California? Is that enough evidence to say, okay, well, maybe the people who are questioning the results of the elections in California, maybe they might have something worth looking into? Of course, these lunatics on the left don't see it that way. To them, it's just another right-wing conspiracy theory, I guess. There was another video that wasn't actually done by the O'Keefe Media Group. I think it was the New York Post. And I think it got lost in my tabs here. Yeah, here we go. There was another video that had 3 homeless people in it, all corroborating the same story. And it's just insane to me that we have all of this evidence. We have all of this suspicious activity. Even if you don't want to call it evidence, call it suspicious activity. They don't even want to look into it because it's been brought up by conservatives. It's automatically to them a lie. It's automatically a conspiracy theory. It's automatically not worth looking into. And the reason is it's allowing them to get the results that they want. Because you can bet that if this type of scheme benefited Republicans, they would be all over it. They would be calling for investigations and hearings and calling for people to get locked up. You can take that to the bank. That's exactly what would happen. But because it's benefiting them, nothing to see here.
So they say, oh, do you want to vote for Karen or Nithya? Or they just really just tell you to vote for Karen, huh?
It was really voting her, man.
Did you vote?
Yeah.
Oh, you did for Karen Bass?
Yeah.
Down here and try and pay you to vote?
Yes. Karen Bassett. Right. That's her last name, Bassett?
Karen Bass, yeah.
Yeah.
Or Nithya Raman?
Karen.
Karen? They told you to vote for Karen?
Yeah. They had to sign a little thing.
And how much they pay you?
It was like $2.
$2? Oh, to sign off on a thing to vote for her?
Yeah.
Oh, on a ballot?
Yes.
Oh, they just, how much they pay you?
$5.
Oh, and they said, here, come and vote for these candidates?
Yes, sir.
They told you who to vote for?
Yes.
Wow. So they told you to vote for Karen Bass or Nithya Raman?
Karen Bass.
Did you vote for Karen Bass?
Yeah.
For $5?
Yeah.
They gave you an optional choice, but they tell you who they want you to vote for.
Or they tell you who you want to vote for. It's like, yo, we'll give you $2, but you got to vote for one of these people.
Well, you know, I'm a barterer, man. So I got $4.
You got what?
$4.
$4?
$4.
$4? Oh, you got...
Yeah, I don't.
He's a barterer, so he got $4 instead of $2. Okay, so it hasn't been proven and adjudicated in a court of law. Fine. But it's worth investigating, isn't it? And it's funny how these people were were asked to vote for Karen Bass, but these are just a few examples. And it's funny how all of the mail-in ballots, what was it, 80% of them, after the election was over, went to Raman. Even after she conceded and thought she lost. That's suspicious, no? And as I said, if the script was flipped and Republicans were benefiting from this, you can bet the farm that they would be calling for all kinds of investigations and task forces and hearings and all the rest of it. The incoherence of these people is just mind-boggling. Absolutely mind-boggling. And is every homeless person in on this? Probably not. But then again, these people are vulnerable and being taken advantage of. So maybe they are unwittingly. And they're voting, and they're the sad irony is they're paying these people to vote for the people who are going to keep them in this situation. They're voting for the people who want them to continue to be homeless, to continue to be drug addicted, and to continue to put their lives on the line every day, because who knows how a bad batch of drugs, mugged, shooting, who knows? Talk about voting against your own interests. I'm glad that there are watchdogs out there like James O'Keefe, the New York Post publishing this stuff, U.S. Attorney Bill Aselli, who you saw in one of the earlier clips. And it's just, this is what happens. This is what happens when you abandon Christian biblical principles of honesty, good stewardship, and all the rest of it. Christians have spent too much time in retreat. And it's time for Christians to step up and re-engage. As I said before, there was a time when the church was the focal point, when the church was where community activism started. So it's time for Christians to re-engage, because if we don't, what we're seeing in California and what we're seeing over in the UK, which we're going to talk about here in a second, it's coming here. It's coming to a neighborhood near you. All right. Let's take this party overseas for a minute before we get you out of here. There was an incident over in Ireland, and eyewitnesses say that this man was licking his lips with the blood of his victim. And the victim is now fighting for his life over in Belfast after a savage, brutal attack where the assailant was trying to basically saw his head off in the middle of the street. And I know some people are trying to pawn this off as a mental health episode, but I don't buy that for a second. I don't buy that for a second. This was medieval barbarism that they imported into their country. And the people who are responsible for it are more worried about a far right backlash than they are about the victim and the things that they did to facilitate this problem. The blood is on their hands. The victim's blood is on their hands. They facilitated this horror to take place. A Sudanese immigrant, and apparently he was legal. In all the news reports, they say migrant, and I hate that sanitized language. He was an immigrant invader. And because he had done some, followed a legal process, he was a legal immigrant. As soon as he's tried to take that man's head off, he became an invader. He repeatedly stabbed this guy in the face and the neck and the back when he was trying to get away. There's video of him where it looks like he's attempting to saw his head off. I'm not going to show you the video. The video it's out there. You can find it. Tommy Robinson posted it. So if you're on X, there you go. There were some bystanders who intervened. This guy came running in with a hurling stick. I'm not sure what that is, but it looked like it hurt when he hit the guy. And then a cop showed up and arrested the assailant. This is another one of those things that didn't have to happen. It didn't have to happen, but it was facilitated by the government. Keir Starmer, the current and hopefully soon to be ex prime minister, called it sickening. Whatever. He's partially responsible for the influx of these invaders into the UK. And this is part of the reality of what's going on over there. We've seen repeated stabbings, repeated beheading attempts, the grooming gangs, the no-go areas, despite what Piers Morgan says. There are numerous videos of people walking down the street in these areas, driving through and taking video. These areas are overrun with Muslims, Middle Easterners, African immigrants. They're just overrun. Places that 30 years ago were 80% white European are now 10% white European, and they're trying to get out of there as fast as they can. Open borders, no vetting, this emphasis on diversity. Diversity is not our strength. If you believe that, you're believing a lie. But of course, the politically correct elites like a Piers Morgan, they like to deflect and say, well, it's only 5%. This is not a widespread issue. Well, yeah, you can say that from your gated community because you have people who go into London and do these things for you. And when you do go, you have security with you. So just shut up because you don't know what you're talking about. They've allowed these immigrant invaders to come into their country and set up these enclaves and not be required to assimilate into the fabric of the country. They prioritize feelings and optics over safety and security. And just in the past, well, I know Henry Novak was actually killed in December of last year, but they have blood on their hands. This most recent victim, who was also a vulnerable person by all accounts, he was known in the community, and he wasn't. People knew him, and they tried to take care of him the best they could. He wasn't it's sad. And again, it didn't have to happen. But decades of importing the third world has resulted in the third world taking root in the UK. Multiculturalism is not, it's not working. It's not working because they're not demanding that these invaders come in, assimilate, and demonstrate some sort of loyalty to the host country that allowed them in. And they're not adopting the values of the host country. They're just taking advantage. So with that and the weak, if non-existent border enforcement, abuse of the asylum system, and the political correctness of the elites, it shields these perpetrators from any consequences. And because this is such a high-profile case, this guy is probably going to deal with some consequences, unless the narrative of this mental health crisis, unless that takes hold, and then he's found incompetent to stand trial, like the killer of Irina Zarutska, another very preventable tragedy. But it all comes back to something that we say here quite a bit. And it all comes back to the wholesale rejection of the Judeo-Christian foundations that these Western civilizations were built on. It's a suicidal experiment that pretends and tries to gaslight us into thinking that all these cultures are equal. They're not. I've said before, our culture is the best culture. Hands down, it's not even close. And to import these third world cultures into ours, it's only going to drag us down. We're not going to be able to lift that up. Because they don't want to be. They don't want to assimilate and integrate. They come to these countries looking for better opportunities, waving the flags from the countries they came from, and turn the country that they sought for a better life into the place they left. Oh, what sense does that make? What sense does that make on their part to do that? And what sense does it make on the host country to allow it to happen? And we're seeing it happen over here. The Somali enclaves up in Michigan. And sadly, in my state of Arkansas, we have this new Africa proposal that I'm praying gets rejected. In Texas, with all of the Islamic centers and city proposals and stuff like that. In New York City, with the broadcast of a call to prayer. What do they say? Demography is destiny. If you have unchecked migration and without any assimilation whatsoever, you run the risk of the exact same type of horrific barbarism that took place in Ireland, everywhere you allow that to happen, whether it's Spain or France or Germany or here in the United States, that's what's going to happen. And because these countries have rejected their Judeo-Christian foundations, these types of things reveal the cost of these godless policies. Civilizations like ours have to be defended, not apologized for. And if we're not willing to defend it, then we're going to lose it. And I think the UK has lost. And France and Germany are not far behind. And they all may be neck and neck at this point. Who knows? The Bible tells us we have to love our neighbors. But sacrificing them for this imported savagery is the exact opposite of love. It's time to take a stand. It's time to take a stand for the truth in all aspects, justice in all aspects, and ordered liberty under Christ. Because if we don't do that, it's not it's not going to be a good look for any of us. Anyway, folks, that's going to do it for us. I know that was a bit of a heavy show, but we got heavy stuff going on, and we got to talk about it. So you have been watching or listening to the Mission Ready Men briefing right here on the SHR Media Network, and here you can catch our great lineup. We got Sackhead Sean, who should be back in a couple of weeks with The Edge of Liberty every Monday and Wednesday at 11 p.m. Eastern, 8 Pacific. Jersey Joe, the Reaver of Common Sense, every Monday and Friday at 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Pacific. And BZ with the Berserk Bobcat Saloon. The saloon is open tonight, every Tuesday and Thursday at 11 p.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. Pacific. So he will be on tonight. So be sure to check him out in about a half an hour. And Beer and Bullstein with Lyle Armstrong every Friday and Saturday at 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Pacific. Please, all the algorithm things, like, subscribe, share, and then pray for us that we have continued growth and continue to break through and reach as many people as we possibly can. And I want to thank everyone who has been in the chat today. Thank you all very much. I want to thank the moderators who are there holding it down and keeping everybody in line. We're not here to just talk into the ether. We're here to equip Christian men, spread the gospel of Jesus Christ, and carry the banner of faith, freedom, and hope into the next generation. And if anything that we said here tonight resonated with you, please share it. Share it with another guy and bring him into the fight. And if you want to wear what you stand for, head over to missionreadymen.com, click Shop 7 Armors, and check out all the great designs we have there that talk about bold faith, true grit, and unapologetic patriotism. And while you're there, you can just click on the SHR shop and check out all the t-shirts for the guys' great shows and the SHR mug and some of the other things that we have there as well. And remember, when seconds count, the police are only minutes away, but the Lord is right there with you. So keep your prayers going up and your head on a swivel. God bless.